everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to American Roots Academy. I wanted to put out this quick video because I'm in the middle of working on some other projects and videos and I just wanted to get something out. I wanted to share with you guys hard proof of God's existence. Many people, say that, you can't prove God's existence. That's not true. It's actually very simple reasoning and logic, and is something you can use in your evangelistic endeavors. I use this all the time in evangelism when I come across people who say that they're atheists or don't believe in God, or maybe they don't know. I give them this very simple test. All right, here's the test. You ready? It's very simple. When you look at a building, how do you know that there was a builder? You don't have to think about it. You intuitively know that a building has a builder, but why? Because the building exists. The existence of the building is proof that there was a builder. Buildings can't build themselves, right? I've had people give me all kinds of complex, answers like, oh, well, we know that buildings have builders because we see them being built, or, we can look at history and paperwork. You don't need all that. Right? You don't look at a building and think, yes, paperwork. No, you look at a building and you intuitively know that there was a builder. Even a child who maybe doesn't understand all the nuances and complexities that go into actually making a building can still understand that a building has a builder. It's very simple. So simple, in fact, that the Bible actually says that the fool has said in his heart, there is no God. Because it's a foolish thing to think that a building doesn't have a builder. And the logic here extends to anything that is created. Anything created is proof that there's a creator. And it's foolish to think not. What would you think of me if I came up to you and said, what proof can you give me that this building has a builder? There's no proof. You'd probably think I'm a little bit crazy, but I would be foolish. And biblically speaking, yes, the fool believes there is no God. The argument is actually summarized by Paul in the book of Romans. He says that the invisible things of God are clearly seen, being understood through the things that are made, so that we are without excuse. This very simple reasoning is 100% proof of God's existence, and it leaves us all without excuse. So much so that this reasoning should be enough to convince any atheist or agnostic of God's existence. And there are actually historical examples of this. One in particular I'm thinking of back in America's founding is a guy named Thomas Paine. You might have heard of this guy. He's the guy who wrote Common Sense as well as some other things. People like to say that our founders were atheists or deists or whatnot. It's by and large not true, but Thomas Paine was by far the most aggressively non-religious person in our founding era, and yet even he still understands that creation points to there being a creator. And I actually have this quote pulled up that I'm going to read about this. He says, "It has been the error of schools to teach astronomy and all the other sciences and subjects of natural philosophy as accomplishments only, whereas they should be taught theologically or with reference to the being who is the author of them. For all the principles of science are of divine origin. Man cannot make or invent or contrive principles. He can only discover them, and he ought to look through the discovery to the author. When we examine an extraordinary piece of machinery, an astonishing pile of architecture, a well-executed statue, or a highly finished painting, our ideas are naturally led to think of the extensive genius and talent of the artist. When we study the elements of geometry, we think of Euclid. When we think of gravitation, we think of Newton. How then is it that when we study the works of God in creation, we stop short and do not think of God? The evil that has resulted from the error of the schools in teaching natural philosophy as an accomplishment only has been that of generating in the pupils a species of atheism. Instead of looking through to the works of creation to the Creator himself, they stop short and employ the knowledge they acquire to create doubts of his existence. But infidelity, by ascribing every phenomenon to properties of matter, conceives a system for which it cannot account, and yet it pretends to demonstration. That right there is Thomas Paine, again, arguably the most anti-religious person, literally saying that it is obvious that creation points to a creator, and it is actually harmful for schools to teach that there is no God. It's not only harmful, but it's also foolish, because logic tells us that anything created has to have a creator. All right, so again, when I'm witnessing to people, this is something you can do as well. If they say that they don't believe in God, just very quick exercise, I'll ask them, you see that building over there? How do you know there was a builder? Because the building exists. Buildings cannot build themselves, therefore the building is proof of a builder. Same thing with a painting. You know that a painter exists because paintings can't paint themselves, and actually the painting itself is the best proof you could want that there was a painter, right? And so again, anything created points to there being a creator. Very simple reasoning, cold, hard, 100% proof of God.